G'day, g'day. Hello. Long time no speak. Kia rana, as we would say here in the Cook Islands, and I've been here for the best part of 14 hours, so maybe a little longer, but not much longer. So yeah, finally out of South America after an awesome little bit over 2 months there. Yeah, it was a fair bit over. We got in on the 10th, so left on the 16th or so, 15th. Seemed to be a long travel to get from Cook Islands, from Santiago to here, because we have to go over the top of the Cook Islands to Auckland, spend the night there, and then fly back out. But such is the life of travel. Anywho's, yeah, a little bit windy this morning, so hopefully the microphone's okay. I would have liked to have been sitting down a little closer to the water and had a primo view looking over the... That was interesting, so maybe my internet's not as good as I thought. Benefit don't need, maybe should's not the right word, but I could start with a bit of an apology for not having done chat with Matt for I don't even know how long. I'm scared to look at the date of the last chat with Matt for fear of inspiring more guilt slash shame slash remorse of myself. So I won't do that. Far too compassionate to do that sort of carry on. But yeah, it's an interesting story, right? When you drop out of a habit that you have, it's not so easy to pick it back up, even if it's something that you recognise is really good for you and good for quote unquote greater good. Still not easy. There have been plenty of times I could have done a chat with Matt, but it always seemed just a little bit too hard. A little bit too unknown, whether the internet was going to hold or whether I was going to have a place that was quiet and conducive for me. Yeah, internet just dropped out for a moment. So I kept putting it off, and the longer you put these things off, the harder it is to get back on the horse. So that's why they say you should get straight back on the horse. If you miss a week, or drop out of your regime, don't go to the gym, have a drink when you're supposed to be sober, whatever it is, the sooner you can get back to your routine, the easier it will be and the better off you'll be. And the longer you leave it, the harder and harder it gets. The guilt just grows and you'd rather not face it at all, and so that's what happens. Anywho's, that's lesson learned, because I had been doing chat with Matt pretty religiously. I know I've missed a few here and there for the best part of 8 years or so, and then just dropped it. But here I am. I'm back. Happy to talk about whatever's going on. I did pop a notification beforehand. Rosie said she loves the cooks. Doug talked about the compost. How's your garden growing? Well, thing is, it's been such a crazy year, and part of the problem was it was such a crazy year before we even left to go travelling. Part of the problem with not doing chat with Matt so regularly, because we all of a sudden decided to move back to Australia, and so went over there, bought a house, came back to New Zealand, and quickly packed up a house, finished a house, and sold a house, as well as sold 5 vehicles and a whole heap of other stuff that didn't need to come. So it was pretty manic. But in the 5 days we were in Australia, after having purchased our house before we left to go to Peru, we did manage to plant a hedge across the back boundary to get a bit of privacy and a bit of a windbreak, in preparation for when we get home in October. We'll be able to start planting out some fruit trees and whatnot, and creating some veggie gardens and all the rest of it that we would love to do. So apparently it's been raining a lot in Northern Rivers of New South Wales, and Jaden, son number 2, youngest son, has ensured us that those plants are growing, getting their roots down and getting in. I think they're just, from memory, just some pittosporums or something like that. that we, the manager here at the bungalows we're staying at is showing the lady who just showed up how to ride the scooter. So that's what's going on behind me. Everyone just rides around on motor scooters here in the Cook Islands. It's very, very relaxed. Well, we're in Aitutaki, not Rarotonga. Rarotonga is a little bit more hectic and crowded on the roads. Here in Aitutaki we have a speed limit of 30 kilometres an hour, and everyone just rides scooters around. It's pretty laid back, pretty easy. I've spent about an hour and a half this morning visiting about 6 of the different small shops, purchasing as much conducive food for our diet as I can, which basically meant getting a few things from all 6 of those shops. That's what it's like here. There is no one big shop where you can go and get everything. You go to all these little shops and they might have, something you're looking for. You find almonds at one, and then you go and you get the muesli that you like from another one, and then you'll find bits and bobs everywhere, all sorts of interesting finds, but in general food here is not so easy, especially if you are vegetarian and like to eat a lot of nice fresh produce. Then unfortunately the Cook Islands, or at least Aitutaki, is not such an easy venue. But we're only here for 2.5 weeks. We have a retreat starting in 6 days' time, which will be catered, so we don't have to worry about food then anyway. So how's my garden growing? Apparently it is, but it's pretty insubstantial at the moment. We've got a lot of lawn at the moment, which is not my favourite thing to grow, but it's doing a job currently, and in due course we will reduce our lawn and increase our food production opportunities, so that's coming up. Doug also said, let's get all 3 comments up. Can tell you're a traveller, not a tourist terrorist. Love you, bless. Thank you. Yeah. I quite often say the worst thing about travelling is actually having to travel. The actual physical act of going through airports and sitting on planes and all of that sort of stuff. We've done quite a few bus trips as well. G'day, Moo. Done quite a few bus trips in Chile as well. They were actually quite good, but in general, the bit of travelling that I love is living in different cultures and environments, and experiencing different things, and meeting new people, and experiencing their way of life. That's what I love the most about travelling, and the energies and the earth energies and sacred sites and environmental sites, or whatever you might want to call them. Natural sites is also very high on the list of benefits of travel. But we're not ones to just go to say we've been somewhere, take the photo and tick it off the list. As Doug said, the tourist terrorists, not really our cup of tea. We like to spend weeks in stillness. Well, stillness as in not changing location, and just hanging out in different environments and different societies, appreciating the way that they are living and what they're doing. It's interesting, There's always a lot of differences, and perhaps there's even more similarities. I've noticed that in both natural ecosystems, as I compare where I am with what I habitually know, Australia and New Zealand, and can see similarities. We've just spent a lot of time at altitude, 4,000 up to 5,000 metres above sea level, and what I noticed was a lot of the plant forms and stuff is very similar to the highlands in New Zealand. Of course, New Zealand's not nearly as high, but we're further south, so get a similar climactic niche ecosystem at lower altitudes further south. But it was interesting how many things were similar, and yet of course there are differences. We don't have any llamas and vicuñas and what are those rabbits with a long tail, fuscatchas in New Zealand. But the plant forms and the topography was similar, but obviously not quite as extreme as the Andes. And I've noticed the same in forests and rainforests and all sorts of places that we've been, cloud forests. I remember the cloud forests of Ecuador. I was walking through there and I thought, wow, this could be just up behind my house in New Zealand. Well, when I mean behind my house, 30 kilometres away from my house in New Zealand, in the cloud forest there. And yet we're in Ecuador on the equator. So yes, a lot of similarities, and yet appreciate the differences. I think that's and the same with society, and the same with people and how they're living. Fundamentally, everyone's looking to find happiness, and yet we're all in different backgrounds and whatnot. Right? There's a unity, and yet there's an individuality. We all have differences in our situations, and yet there's similarities in all situations, and you can definitely see similarities in how we deal with challenge and difficulties and whatnot. Anyway, so yeah, as I said, maybe I'll look and try and find this post, make sure I'm not missing the comments with talking of things that are similar and yet keep changing. Facebook platform is one of those things that are similar and yet keep changing in terms of how live streams run and whatnot. Oh yeah, and there are no comments, so I haven't missed anything there. Yeah, so back on the horse, I've got we did 2 amazing retreats in Galapagos. Galapagos was a real joy, a real privilege to spend time there, really. It's such an amazing place in many ways, energetically, as well as the opportunities you have to see amazing environments and ecosystems, and the fauna of those, and the flora of course, but the fauna is what's amazing there the most, is the fact that you can be so close to the bird life and the marine mammals and different fish and sharks and turtles and the iguanas, both marine and land iguanas, nesting birds. It's just amazing that you can come so close to them without them freaking out or overly modifying, hey Sister Susan, overly modifying their behaviour. It's really such a blessing to feel that connection with the animals. The marine, like the sea lions there are amazing to swim with them, and they're so playful, the pups, right in your face, and so inquisitive that they're like dogs, but in the water, and so graceful. But also the turtles and stuff, and the tortoises on land, just allowing you the privilege of coming close enough to really feel their aura. I've swum with turtles in a lot of parts of the world, marine turtles, here in the Cooks, Maldives, Sri Lanka, all sorts of places I've swum, had the good fortune to swim with marine turtles. But usually they keep their distance, and I understand that, and I don't begrudge them wanting to stay away from humans. Humans have, historically caused them a lot of grief. so that memory is deep in their DNA. But in Galapagos, you know, for some reason you can just rarely be within arm's reach of a marine turtle, and they're not at all worried about you. They'll look at you inquisitively sometimes, but they don't really change their behaviour or try and get away from you or show any sort of defence or begrudge the fact that you're in their environment with them, which then allows you to feel a connection, which is, what's the right terms to use? It's very heartwarming, it's very expansive, and it's just such a blessing, such a blessing. Anyways, so that has been a real highlight. Of course, before that we were in Peru. I don't think I've even done a live stream since I was in Peru. I think I did one right at the start of Peru, but I actually think that was in my subscription community. So yeah, it's been a long time since I've been on here in a more public forum. We spent 3 weeks in Peru and visited a lot of the sacred sites, Lake Titicaca, Cusco, and all of the Inca and pre-Inca sites, or not all of them, but a lot of them. I walked the Inca Trail, spent time in Machu Picchu, did all sorts of amazing things. It was full on for me personally, energetically, a lot of deep awakenings and purifications, and it was pretty intense. So to be able to go afterwards to Galapagos and spend a week decompressing before our first retreat, and then have the joy of sharing that place with our retreat participants, not once but twice, was very welcome. And then we went back and went through Bolivia, which was, in terms of sort of connection to the people, like as in the sacred people, and not as intense as Peru, even though it's a very similar culture. Like Titicaca is on the border between Bolivia and Peru, so very similar region. It's sort of in the heart of the Inca Empire when that was running, and of course the pre-Inca people who were there before the Incas sort of arose and created their empire. But Bolivia was more of the energy of the land, I felt, the energy of the Andes Mountains, and it was a deeper energy than the Peruvian energy, which I felt much more of an affinity with the ancient cultures. So, this is why I love travelling, is because even though I, don't always enjoy travelling, we can love things that we don't always enjoy, because I recognise the benefit of doing it, even though from time to time it's rather uncomfortable to do. And, the actual travel bit, going through, airports and sitting on planes crowded, and the energy of planes, etc., is not my favourite pastime at all. And it's sometimes, quite a struggle. But the benefit of actually, getting out of the comfort and going to places is you expose yourself to energies that are very transformational. Again, not always comfortable, not always pleasant, but I feel very beneficial to expose yourself to these triggers and these inspirations, and also feeling the support of various places. Like I felt Galapagos is very supportive. Here in the Cook Islands, it's warm, even though it's a bit windy today, which, I generally don't enjoy. I find it a little bit irritating to my nervous system, but I think most people do. But the energy here is just so laid back, and the culture of this place is so easygoing that it's, you feel nurtured, you feel cared for, you're given permission to slow down and decompress and process, integrate, assimilate. And the Cook Islands is the Galapagos Islands is similar to that. In many ways, the Galapagos Islands is a little bit like the Cook Islands on steroids. The water's not as warm, so it's not tropical reef in Galapagos. It's cooler waters. It's actually the meeting of 3 different currents, which is part of the interest of the place. But you know, the marine life is prolific there, even though it's not. You know, there's still a lot of colourful fish. There's just not the same sort of coral and reef and stuff. Anywho's, just scroll down here. So yeah, that's bringing you up to speed with where I'm at. Retreat starting next week. After we leave the Cook Islands, we're heading to Japan. That is going to be different yet again. I'm kind of looking forward to Japan, and yet a little bit cautious, nervous about the busyness of Japan. We're going to hire a car for some of the time, only to use in a relatively confined area of Izu Peninsula. But yeah, we're hopefully going to find a retreat venue there to go to in 2026. We did find a retreat venue in the Sacred Valley in Peru, in case you didn't hear. So we'll be going there next April, so that's only 10 months away, which is going to be powerful, definitely going to be powerful. That part of Peru is very powerful, and the program is definitely of a high vibration. So if you're interested in that, reach out. It's already filling up, as most of our retreats do. Yeah, so finding a venue in Japan in July, and then heading to Bali in August to host a retreat. That should be good, even though Bali has an intensity to it energetically, as I've experienced every time I go there. Even though it's quite familiar, we've been there quite a lot, it still has a bit of a kick your ass energy, the old Bali, especially when you get up to some more of the spiritual areas and out of the tourist traps, which is where we have our retreat up on the north coast. And then lastly, we're off to Sri Lanka well, it's not lastly, but anyway, August we'll spend in Sri Lanka, September, and then we'll be home in October, and then Thailand in November to spend time with the elephants, which I am really looking forward to. A very ethical elephant sanctuary, rescue elephants. Anyways, so that's my life. Hopefully, if I get back on this horse, probably won't be doing a chat with Matt next week, because we will be on retreat this time next week, but the week after. I'm holding intentions for that. I might have to start flipping days around a bit, because trying to keep doing them on this sort of Wednesday time slot is not always so easy, especially with our travel arrangements. Anyway, friends, I will love you and leave you there. And yeah, if you do have some questions, want to know what I think about this or that, you know, there's a whole shit show going on out there at the moment. We haven't even touched on geopolitical influences. Another good benefit of travelling is you tend to get out of the loop with watching too much of media streams, and you can live a little bit more in your own bubble, a little bit more in your own sphere of experience, which I think at this time is really beneficial, and I encourage everyone, whether they're travelling or not, to minimise their exposure to the fear porn and the propaganda about what's going on. I'm not saying that what's being broadcast is completely false, but in general there's very little you can do about it, and getting upset in no way helps. The best thing we can all do right now is live our truth, and open our hearts and get out there as a beacon of light rather than sponging up all of the negativity that's being promoted and broadcast. Because then you become it, basically, and that's not helpful. The energy flooding into the planet is basically purging the planet and society of all forms of negativity, and unfortunately, as that is purged, it is expressed. And so there's a lot of expressions out there that is basically the old energy leaving, and to get too caught up in it just slows the process down. So for the most part, stay as positive as you can, stay aligned with what you are choosing for the future of yourself and our society, and live it as best you can, despite the fact that there's intensity and chaos going on all around us. That's my advice for right now, my friends. And we're definitely holding space for all of you who are choosing to embrace that intention. Anyways, much love. Bye for now. Bye bye.